What it do, flight crew? FTC. Flight team stand up! It's February. FTC stay legendary. Hey, man, if you see me, I'm in a little down movement. I just finished reacting to the Super Bowl. Watch party and everything like that, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just one. Boom! Try not to get scared. Chilling, scared, 5 most server 4chain threads, and possibly a crime via 2-in-1.
On March 18th, 2011, an anonymous user on 4chan's paranormal board made a post talking about a tunnel they just discovered under their house. We found this creepy tunnel in my basement, and we have no idea where it goes or how deep it is. We have enough extension cords and a light, but we don't have any actual flashlights. What do we do, X? The post also included a picture of the tunnel. Unfortunately, the original thread has since been lost to time, and none of the surviving archives contain any of the images. But based on other users' initial reaction, it likely wasn't very convincing. Some were still intrigued and wanted the OP to explore further, especially after they didn't find any matching images on the internet. And
I know y'all jumped at that one though. Y'all gotta act too hard. I'm still thinking about this Patriots game, but y'all gotta act too hard, bro. I know y'all jump scared. Don't think just because you just finished watching the Super Bowl, you can't get scared, bro.
OP here. We're gonna go exploring and take pictures on the way. We'll check back as long as we're not dead or anything. I went halfway and saw this. I'm going back and we'll post pics. However, this reply only made some users more suspicious. If you just discovered it and haven't explored it, you don't know how far halfway is. This suspicion only grew stronger when the OP vanished from the thread completely, leading others to joke that he might have died after going deeper into the tunnel. Now, this would normally be the end of a thread like this. Some would wait for the OP to return, but most would move on to the next post that catches their interest. However, just as the thread was about to fizzle out, it took a very disturbing turn. It started when someone posted a picture mocking the situation by showing the gory remains of a woman, jokingly claiming that it was OP. OP's dead body. This was then followed by a much more serious comment by user Name Goes Here. Where did you find this pic? It looks like my missing ex. Completely serious. She dropped off the face of the earth one day and nobody knows where she is. Not sure if you're serious, but if so, sorry for your loss, man. I'm serious. We didn't break up. She went missing. As mentioned earlier, the actual image was never archived. But from the crude jokes being made, as is typical on 4chan, it's clear that the woman in the picture had suffered an extremely gruesome fate, as she was missing her eyes and lips. Despite its gruesome nature, however, most assumed it was unrelated, and that the user Name Goes Here was simply making the backstory up. Though it wasn't long before that attitude started to change. I'm losing it here. I just emailed the pic to our old city's police, and oh god, I just don't know now. Oh god, man, you are serious. This is crazy. Yes, I'm serious. I feel like I'm gonna puke any second. Some users were still skeptical of the whole story. I call BS on the girlfriend thing. Unless the pic was taken by a sick man, like the killer, one would have to assume the body was reported. Teeth are there, fingers are there, would have been ID'd, yeah? But there were also a few who now believed that Name Goes Here was telling the truth and wanted to help him get to the bottom of this. This is too much. Seriously, where did you find this pic? Please. Dude, it's been in gore threads forever. The lack of greenery in the foliage and the decomposition of the corpse suggests that she's been there for a while. Since most of the plants are dead, it's probably winter. Since she's very, very deader than the plants, she probably died when it was warm. Tell me, Name Goes Here, when did she go missing? I don't go into gore threads. The last time I talked to her was in August of '08. Hate to break it to you, but I seen that girl in lots of gore threads. On top of that, the picture's been on the internet for a while. It's probably not your ex. Anything older than 2008? Like I said, I don't go into them, but I honestly pray that it's true that these are old and she just went into hiding or whatever. I've seen that picture around for a long time. I'm not sure if I saw it before 2008, but it's been around for a while. Wouldn't it make you feel better to have closure on the situation if it actually was her? Even if it hurts you that she died, it's better than not knowing, right? Have you spoken to her family? I don't know, I just don't know. Her mother didn't like me and is hospitalized with dementia anyway, and her father pulled the same thing a few years back. Just up and disappeared. The last contact I had with any of her family was her brother, but he died last year. Make a thread. Post pics of the girl in here, post pics of your ex-girlfriend. If she really is missing, it's not like it matters if you post her picture. Let the internet detectives get to work. What if some seriously messed up stuff is out there? Name Goes Here was a bit hesitant at first, not wanting to potentially dox his ex to random 4chan trolls. The last thing I need is 4chan to be messing with pics of my ex. How would you feel if this was your mother or sister, internet tough guys? I forwarded the pic to the proper authorities. But after some persuasion, he agreed with the users trying to help him and posted 2 partially censored pictures of his ex. But this only further solidified the potential outcome Name Goes Here was dreading the most. I'm so sorry. I wanted to say that it didn't look anything like her, but it really does to me. You blacked out some important features, like the distance between her eyes and the full length of her nose, but there are enough similarities. That shot is dead on. I feel really uncomfortable about how close a match it is. Body type is a good match. Her left ear is a bit ambiguous, but I can't rule it out at 50-50. The tip of her nose is also a good match. Notice how the bridge of the dead girl's nose has a bit of a bump on it. That's a really distinctive feature. Yes, she did, and almost in the same spot. If there was a picture of the tops of her wrists or her back, I would know for sure it was her. By this point, most people following this thread were convinced that the girl in the picture was Name Goes Here's ex, but with no information on the gore image's actual origin, there was little they could do to actually resolve the matter. They advised Name Goes Here to start a separate blog to post updates in case authorities came back with new information. After some deliberation, he set up a Tumblr page, where most of the early posts were either people asking for more details or offering help. Name Goes Here also posted 2 more partially censored pictures of his ex on this page, which have been properly archived, giving us a chance to see what she looked like, though they did little to help the investigation. Then, in April 2011, he made an announcement stating, "Update coming tonight, back in town now, crazy." But the update never came. It wasn't until a month later that Name Goes Here returned to the Tumblr page, this time with a completely new story. "Sorry, lost the login info for this Tumblr. Couldn't stop thinking about this all. Went east to her hometown and eventually tracked down one of her friends. Last her friend had heard, ex was planning to move out of state. Friend hasn't heard from her in a while either, since just about the time I have it. Did some digging and found marriage records from 2009 in her name in another state. And planning a trip there in a few days to see if anything turns up. Sorry it wasn't more exciting, Anons, if any of you are even still reading. No mafioso or anything fun like that. The dealers I did know in her hometown who knew her didn't have any info either. I was hoping they'd at least heard or saw something. Quick info. Brother not dead. Found him after getting some useful info. Contacted him. Was shocked to hear from me. Would not say anything about sister, my ex-girlfriend. Traveling back to the SE to find and confront him. I need closure." This already was quite strange. After nearly 3 years of silence, he conveniently uncovered details about her supposed marriage plans, and the dead brother was somehow still alive. The sudden shift set off alarm bells for those still following the story, which only grew louder with Name Goes Here's next 2 posts.
Like 2.5 something hours from now, because you gotta sync it up.
Quit. I said I'd leave you alone, now leave me alone. Quit. Stop.
But it'll be up on the main channel by the night.
Stop.
Appreciate it, y'all.
Finally quiet.
Put in this
now I can go to
emote.
sleep.
Keep it in emote for the rest of
Thank
the
God,
video.
no more talking, no more screaming, no more noise. So quiet. With that, Name Goes Here vanished from the internet, leaving readers guessing what was real and what was not, as this was a very ARG-like ending to a story that had felt extremely real up until this point. So...
169420 with the 50 gifted tier. Yo, W's in the chat from Juan.
What really
Thank you so much,
here?
bro.
Was the OP ever telling the truth? Or was this all one elaborate hoax or ARG?
Fire emojis in the chat.
The simplest answer would be that this was all a lie from the very beginning. It could even be that the OPU started the original thread with the post about the tunnel, the user who posted the gory image, and Name Goes Here were all the same person. But from everything we've seen, the truth seems to be a lot more complex. Now, whether the girl in the picture was his ex is still up for debate, especially since we have no way of seeing the original images today. However, there is a strong chance that Name Goes Here was telling the truth from his perspective. As for the sudden shift in narrative in his Tumblr posts, most explain that by claiming his Tumblr account got hacked by someone else. You see, in a previous reply, Name Goes Here claimed that, quote, "the authorities are just meh about the whole thing, like they know who's in the pic and it's not my ex." He possibly got the confirmation that it wasn't his ex, which he was going to announce after this post. But before he could do that, his account was hacked by someone else who wanted to turn this into an ARG of sorts. This fully explains why things ended the way they did. That said, this is nothing more than an educated guess. Whether or not the gore image really featured this guy's ex-girlfriend will likely remain a mystery for the foreseeable future.
Shit, what ended up happening? It was a rabbit hole.
I recently came across a very personal report that I never asked for, and it is honestly terrifying. Page after page of my most personal details, all pulled to you and me. Report includes
It's an ad?
a service. I literally
I know it.
entirely the broker. They're permanently on Pacific a VP together, and those two leads
W skip.
On the night of August 26, 2012, 44-year-old Randy Leeds Henley got into a horrible accident near Flathead Lake in Montana.
Damn.
He was struck by a car on Highway 93 and passed away shortly after. But when first responders arrived at the scene, they were surprised to see him wearing a camouflage ghillie suit. These suits are usually worn by people in the military or hunters looking to blend in with their surroundings. So maybe he was hunting in the Flathead National Park nearby. But he didn't have any weapon or other hunting gear on him. The true reason for his disguise was far more unexpected than anyone could have imagined. According to one of his friends, Randy was trying to create a Bigfoot hoax. His plan was to get on the highway, convince a few passing drivers they'd just seen the Sasquatch, and leave before getting into any trouble. Unfortunately, the camouflage suit at night obviously made him near impossible to spot on the road, resulting in him getting hit by a car driven by a 15-year-old girl. He might have still survived the accident, but that chance dropped to zero when another 17-year-old driver failed to see him, now lying on the highway, and struck him a second time. By the time emergency services arrived at the scene, Randy was long gone.
Damn.
His friend explained that they had done similar things in the past, but nearly all of them were in much safer locations, which raised the question, why did Randy take such a huge risk this time? This remained a mystery until people on the internet stumbled upon what seemed to be the answer on 4chan of all places. On the 18th of July 2012, an anonymous user on 4chan's random board made a post stating, "Hey B, don't ask me how I know because I cannot tell you, but I have it on good authority that Bigfoot will be undeniably proven to exist by the end of August. It's all over. He's real. How does that make you feel?
Turns up, he was
Anyone
doing
currently a believer?"
for a hoax and
Now,
stuff.
there is a small
Lost his
chance
life.
that this post and Randy's accident were entirely unrelated, but the details seem to align too perfectly for that to be the case. The dates are an exact match. The OP stated that Bigfoot would be proven by the end of August. The post was made in mid-July of 2012, and the car accident happened on August 26 of 2012. The post was either made by Randy himself or by someone who was in on the plan. He likely wanted to be seen by enough drivers to spark a widespread sighting and prove his 4chan prediction right. Unfortunately, the plan backfired horribly, costing Randy his life in the process.
Crazy, man.
In 2010,
things
an
for the
anonymous
internet.
4chan user shared a disturbing encounter he had while exploring an abandoned house. The original thread has since been lost to time, but luckily someone managed to archive
Y'all still be
everything in
trying
a
to explore
separate
these
image
abandoned
before
houses,
that
bro?
happened. According to the OP, the incident happened back in 2009. One day in April or May, the OP and a few friends started drinking around noon before wandering around town looking for something to do. And that's when they noticed the dilapidated house next to the OP's home. OP had never seen anyone enter or leave that home, so it was likely vacant. It also had a sign out front with the word "condemned" written on it, which marked the house as unsafe to live in. However, this did little to stop the OP and his friends from wanting to explore the abandoned building. After looking around a bit, they entered through the collapsing garage and forced open the door leading inside. The whole thing was a complete mess, with trash and scattered items everywhere. But even that didn't prepare the OP and his friends for what they were about to discover. They started the exploration with the basement, and it was already off to a strange start. It had a single large table in the middle with a model train set on top. They then continued exploring the rest of the house, and it kept getting creepier with each step. The furniture and shelves had a very vintage design, even for an already old house, and nearly every patch of floor and table surface was covered in trash. But not just any trash. Most of these were specifically either glass bottles or cans of alcohol and soft drinks. Whoever was living in this house clearly had an addiction. Going deeper into the house,
Crazy
OP
addiction.
reached a door separating the kitchen from the living room. By this point, OP had become quite comfortable with the idea of exploring this house in its entirety.
169-420 with the top 25 gifted 10. Yo, shout out to Juan. He's gifted 75
Confidence,
subs
only to see the
in the
last
past
thing
5
he
minutes, man.
expected
W's in the
inside.
chat, 5 emojis in the
It
chat.
was a swinging door, and when I opened it, I caught a glance of a figure sitting in a chair facing away from me. All I knew is that someone was in the house and we were trespassing. I quickly turned around, and while walking towards the back door, I told my friends in a whisper, "There is somebody here," and we all ran out. But they were all quite inebriated at this point. So after calming their
Bro,
nerves,
y'all
a
don't
bit,
need to stop doing these abandoned houses, bro. They're abandoned
the
for a
friends
reason.
managed to convince the others that it was likely just some junkie squatter and that they should kick him out. resulting in the group making their way back into the house. However, things did not go as expected. When we made it to the kitchen, Vinny was the first to open the door this time to the living room. The rest of us stood back and just watched him watch the figure in the chair. Vinny swung the door shut, looked at us, and said, "That's a dead body." We all looked at him in shock, as it was obvious that he was serious. We all trickled into the living room and gathered around the body. His skin was black, even though we found out later he was white and was sitting in a chair facing the front of the house. It was obvious that he had been there for a while. The smell near the body was almost unbearable. We needed to cover our mouths and noses with our shirts like respirators. This made Vinny and I sober up really quickly. There was a complete silence between our group of four while we observed the body. Nobody said a word. The original 4chan thread also included several pictures of this deceased man. And while I can't show them on YouTube due to how gruesome they are, they're clearly way too real looking to be fake. More importantly, I couldn't find any of them on the internet prior to the OP's thread, strongly suggesting that he took the photos himself and that his story was likely true. Another detail that made the story feel more believable were the pictures of the deceased man's journal, where he'd noted down things like the daily temperature and what he ate and drank that day. A Reddit user later suggested that it was likely a drinking journal, one that groups like Alcoholics Anonymous assign to people trying to quit their addiction. Sadly, it didn't seem to work. Given the sheer amount of empty alcohol bottles and beer cans in his home, he'd probably been struggling with alcohol addiction for a very long time. His immune system was likely already decomposed from years of excessive drinking. And since he didn't have anyone else to take care of him, even a minor illness tragically turned fatal, as the final entry in his journal stated, "Sick as heck, flu, can't eat." He likely passed out from exhaustion on his chair and never woke up again. Fearing they might get charged for breaking in, the OP ended up submitting an anonymous tip to authorities. This also allowed the OP to speak with the responding officers without having to worry and learn a few more details about the man's life. I talked to one of the cops, and he said that the guy's family would have them check up on the guy from time to time to make sure he was doing all right. Apparently he wanted nothing to do with his family, but they stopped doing so. He just wanted to be left alone. On the 12th of March 2013, at exactly 1:52 p.m., an anonymous post appeared on 4chan's random board with the OP detailing a horrific crime he was about to commit, reading, "Hey B, it's time. My name is Neil McGinnis, and I go to New River Community College in Christiansburg, Virginia, 10 minutes away from Virginia Tech. I'm gonna give y'all the details because the news never gets it right." He then went on to talk about the firearm he was going to use on the school, and his lack of experience with that weapon. He also included the link to a website where he was planning to broadcast his crime live, before ending the post with a rant that exposed his desire to become famous. Anyways, this is not a high score game, but actually a lesson. That's why I'm at school. Want to see my e-portfolio / what I look like? www.nrccstudents.org/McKinnisN. Also, pick related. I'm here at school writing this. Wish me luck. However, despite the ominous nature of this confession, it didn't gain much attention at first. You see, posts like these are a dime a dozen on 4chan, where trolls make up all sorts of stories just for some attention. Unfortunately, Neil wasn't lying.
Yo, there's a guy shooting at the New River Mall right now. He's shooting a shotgun at the mall right now.
What the fuck?
He told us to get out of the way. He said, leave now, he just got shooting at the mall right now. He's shooting at the school right now.
You said at the NRV Mall, right?
At the NRV Mall, yes.
Okay, where is he at in the mall?
He's at the school right now. Everyone's running out of school right now. He's shooting at people right now.
Just 3 minutes after his 4chan post, Neil ran into the New River Community College campus, located inside the New River Valley Mall, and started attacking everyone he came across.
What?
Luckily, his inexperience with the firearm turned out to be a blessing for his potential victims. He forgot to disengage the safety while trying to shoot at his first few targets, giving them the time to escape. By the time he started actually firing, most of those people had fled to safety. Over the next 4 minutes, he ran around the campus looking for more targets.
Christiansburg 911, where's your emergency?
Hi, someone was trying to the New River Community College with a shotgun. Told everyone to run.
New River Community College with a shotgun?
Yes, ma'am.
He was able to shoot 2 students during this time, Taylor Sharp and Christina Bozergine, before getting tackled and detained by an off-duty security guard. Fortunately,
tackled and detained? Fuck you mean tackled and detained, bruh? That's it?
Being tackled and detained by an off-duty security guard. Fortunately, despite suffering grave injuries, both of his victims managed to survive.
If I'm not mistaken, he said off-duty security guard. He's not saying it like a cop. Because security guards sometimes don't have like straps. And shit.
After months of recovery.
I
As
had to
for
replay
Neal,
that
he
for a
was
second.
arrested shortly after and was charged with 2 counts of malicious wounding and 2 counts of using a firearm. The reason he did the attack
Platinum
is
threat,
still
bro.
unknown, but he pleaded guilty to all 4 felony charges and received a total sentence of 68 years, with 30 years suspended, leaving 38 years in prison. The only silver lining is that his incompetence and the guards' bravery allowed the incident to be resolved
W or
quickly
L justice
without
system.
any fatalities.
Better never smell grass again.
On the
bro.
7th of July 2013, a post on 4chan's paranormal board captured everyone's attention, sparking a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. It read, "Hey X, my dad bought a CD at a computer expo in Rochester, New York a few years back. The CD itself was for some engineering software, but there was a second CD inside the CD case. There was no design or writing on it, and the CD was a .zip file called Station. Inside is a Blender game with a bunch of .dll files. The game itself is very strange. I don't want to ruin much, but it's a very crudely made game that takes place at some sort of field with 2 buildings. The goal is to escape the entities that are chasing you. Once they touch you, the game closes." He then followed this up by asking users to reply with their emails so he could send the game to them directly. This sounded like a textbook phishing scam to either distribute a virus or at least gather a bunch of email addresses for some nefarious purpose. "Of course we'll give you our emails so you can send us junk. Why not?" But to everyone's surprise, OP returned 25 minutes later with a public MediaFire download link. And after passing it through antivirus software, some users actually played the game and shared their findings with the others. It was a first-person 3D game with a crude horror aesthetic. Booting up the game immediately spawned the player in an empty warehouse of sorts, where the only identifiable features were the gas tanks outside the building, a dark road with a handful of low-resolution trees, and a pier that went nowhere. The entire time, it played the track you're hearing now. A few minutes after the start, the game played a loud noise and spawned a spherical floating face that chased the player around the map. The goal was to avoid the face at all costs. If it ever tried the game instantly
Yo, it reminds me of that
crashed.
one scary game we played before.
Player
Like a
somehow
knockoff version of it.
To successfully
Forgot what
avoid
it
the
was,
face
though.
for long enough, the game would escalate the difficulty
Juan with
by
the gift
spawning
thing.
multiple different faces. And
W,
that was all there was to it.
Juan.
It was a short, creepy game, but nothing too remarkable or interesting. That is until 4 days later, when a user discovered a set of coordinates hidden in one of the outer walls. Putting these into Google Maps took users to a random warehouse in the middle of Siberia, Russia. The closest civilization to this warehouse was the diamond mining town of Mirny, which is known for having the second largest man-made hole in the world. How any of this connected to Station.exe was still a complete mystery, though a closer look at the real warehouse confirmed that it wasn't a coincidence, since the actual building had an eerily similar layout to the warehouse in-game. What made this even more strange was that there was no street view footage of this location. The whole town was also guarded by the Russian military, where outsiders are not allowed, so whoever created this game was likely a resident of Mirny themselves. However, this is where the confirmed
That's actually
clues from
crazy.
Station.exe stopped. Over the upcoming weeks and months, several more clues were discovered, but none of them were ever proven to actually be from the game. Like someone finding an SSTV or slow scan television file, which was supposedly hidden in the game's code. SSTV, for those who don't know, is a file format that allows users to transmit and receive still images over radio waves. Decoding this SSTV image led to another set of coordinates pointing to the middle of nowhere in another part of Russia. Another user claimed to have found the URL for a site called semperprotonam.com within the game. This site has since been deleted from the internet, but back then opening this link led to a password-protected site containing images of debunked alien sightings, old military operations, and a copy of Station.exe. Though, according to the site's owner, it's nothing more than a storage site for him to save files he thought were needed or were in danger of disappearing. The reason it had a copy of Station.exe was simply because he found it interesting and wanted to preserve it for the future. However, this did little to stop people from digging up new clues and trying to find a connection with the game, with some truly out-there theories linking the game to things like shady medical research, human experimentation, and organ trafficking happening at the real location the game was based off. Yet, none of these theories included any actual proof of their connection to the game that started it all. So, what really was Station.exe? Well, from everything I've come across, there are 2 possible theories. First is that the OP's dad really did buy the CD at a computer expo, but it was nothing more than a creepy horror game based on Thomas the Tank Engine. The floating heads are very similar to the
I remember
faces
that
of the
cartoon.
train engines on that
Not
show.
this is some
and this
edited
also
version.
explains its name, Station, being a reference to train stations. But while this theory is compelling, it's still not perfect. It doesn't explain the coordinates on the wall, which were placed there deliberately by the developer. This brings us to the second possibility, which I personally believe. Station.exe was originally meant to be an ARG by the OP, but then people figured out that the game was coded on the newest version of Blender, and that the story about it being a few years old was a lie. This caused the OP to lose interest and abandon the project after the first clue of the warehouse in Siberia. However, this was a bit anticlimactic, so other people stepped in to keep the mystery alive with fake evidence like the SSTV file or the forced connection with semperprotonam.com. That said, all of this is still just conjecture on my part, based on everything I've seen. I doubt we will get the real answer from the OP now after nearly 13 years.
Hey, man, just gonna wrap it up. A lot of strange stories in this one, man. Which one was the worst of the worst?